Hey, Rick Sayes here. Welcome to another episode of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, where I hope to provide entertaining conversations with retailers, brand managers, athletes, executives, and others in the outdoor biz to get their stories, tips, strategies, productivity tricks, and ideas that you can apply and take your career or business to the next level. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. I've used Audible for many years now. I'm on the road a lot, and Audible allows me to enjoy the great books I discover or are recommended by friends. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/theoutdoorbizpodcast. There are over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Start your 30-day free trial with Audible today. Hey guys, I think you're going to like this fun, wide-ranging conversation with Alison Teal. Time magazine has dubbed her the female version of Indiana Jones. Parents are quite the adventurers, and Alison has followed their path straight from the cradle. Her journeys have taken her on wild, bikini-clad adventures into ancient cultures with her camera and pink eco surfboard to share global secrets of survival, sustainability, health, and happiness through her comedic and inspirational film and blog series, Alison's Adventures. Alison's goal with Alison's Adventures is to inspire and educate the kid in each of us through humorous entertainment that leads to action. Hang on, here we go. Welcome to the show, Alison.
Aloha.
All right. Aloha back. Great to chat with you. We were just chatting offline. Sounds like we know a bunch of unique, or not unique, but same friends and same connections over the outdoor industry. That's awesome.
It's a small world.
Yeah. So it's interesting. You grew up in the outdoors, right? Your first exposure to the outdoors was right out of the gate. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. Yes, I'm quite familiar with the great outdoors. Oh wow, where to even begin? I was sort of that Tarzan child, raised around the world. I was born on the floor of a log cabin, actually, in the Colorado Rockies, and
cool.
Barely, almost born like in a car, bumping down a dirt road during a blizzard.
Wow.
And then at 2 months old, my adventure photographer parents whisked me away up the highest peak in southern Peru, and since then life has just been this kind of crazy whirlwind of adventure. They were our adventure travel guides and photographers, for companies like Patagonia, National Geographic, and Eagle Creek, which I know is one of your alma maters.
Yeah, one of my alma maters.
And so I was, pretty much just adventure, survival, travel 101 since birth.
Right.
Thrown into it.
So so you haven't had a traditional outdoor job. You've just kind of been following in your parents' footsteps. So did they really teach you I know you do a lot of videos and films and stuff.
I think they followed in my footsteps. I'd be running up everything I could find, and they'd be chasing along.
There you go. Right.
Well, it's interesting because way back then, back in the 80s, I guess 90s, video cameras and all that were massive.
Right. Yeah.
Things
huge.
to carry. So yeah, it was huge. So they were still in the mode of shooting on film and using light meters and, climbing up Mount Everest and then realizing you don't have film in the camera after an entire shoot was one of my dad's, best.
I've done a podcast like that. I did a whole podcast and realized I got nothing recorded.
Nothing. Yeah, that's always a good. Are you checking right now to make sure
it's on. Yep, the light's on.
Red light. So it was definitely. But see, I didn't know it was non-traditional because all I knew since I was born basically was living in a tent in. Whether it was at the base of Mount Everest or on a camel safari across the Rajasthan desert or going down the Amazon, to find pink dolphins and tribes that didn't even know what fire was. And
wow, awesome.
So it was kind of a non-traditional but completely normal to me life to be having, lunch with a head cannibal or, that was.
So you've been all over the world. I mean, where haven't you been? You've been on every continent, I'm sure.
It's interesting. I haven't been to Egypt, and I feel like last year, Time magazine named me the female Indiana Jones, and I'm like, I better go to Egypt.
You got to go to Egypt now, right?
Yeah, I cannot not go to Egypt.
Right.
So that's one place that is definitely. I'm a surfer, soul / professional surfer.
Okay, cool.
So I tend to gravitate towards the sea. So those have been a lot of my favorite places. Grew up a lot in Indonesia, and then.
That's nice because those areas typically are very warm too.
Yes, very warm. At about, what was I? A couple years old, my parents were sick of frozen pipes and constant snow. And so they came to the big island of Hawaii. Mountain Bike gave them the first mountain bikes and this little burly cart. And they did a big photojournal assignment for mountain bike. And they came across this property on the ocean that had never been sold in the history of Hawaii.
Wow.
It still had like Queen Liliuokalani on the deed.
Wow.
And through this very like Lion King sequence of events, they're like, this should be yours. And now I'm actually standing here right now as we speak.
Awesome.
In our almost 100% sustainable oceanfront retreat center. So this has kind of become home over the years. And so basing out of, the tropics in Hawaii and then continuing traveling.
That's great. So, and you were recently on Naked and Afraid. How long ago was that? Was that pretty recent?
Oh gosh, I was the first. Well, they filmed a bunch of episodes simultaneously to begin with before they even knew if the show would actually, if we would die or
test drive it.
Yeah, it was a great experiment.
Sounded like a wild experience.
It was. I mean, they called me to do it, and my whole thing is I love to inspire families, and I have an adventure series, Alison's Adventures, where it's kind of like if Disney and Discovery had a baby. That's what I focus on with my films. So when they asked me to be naked on national television, I was like, heck no. That is not something I'm interested in. And then after about a year of working with Discovery and kind of planning out, what is it going to be? Or do we get to take an item? How does this work? I was like, wow, this is kind of like Adam and Eve. Like, what would happen if we were stranded and had nothing and had to survive? So I don't know, for those who don't know the concept of the show, they call it the Everest of survival challenges, where they take a man and a woman who've never met and put them in the harshest environment on Earth.
And you get to take one thing, don't you?
21 days with nothing, no clothing. And you get to each pick an item. I picked my pink surfboard, but then we got to the Maldives and it was monsoon season. And I was like, maybe I should bring a piece of flint because we're going to need fire.
Right. That makes sense. What was the most fun in that experience?
Well, growing up in Hawaii, kind of like coconut girl and around the world with all these tribes, like to me, waking up and, eating a guinea pig or building a house out of palm fronds is normal. So at first I was having a ball because I'm like, this is so much fun.
They're paying me for this?
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, they don't pay you. That's the other.
Oh, really? Wow.
That's the other kind of, coconut wrench in the whole equation is that it's more of a self.
So you have to use that and leverage it. Once you get done, you can then leverage the video.
Well, that's what was interesting for me about it is I sat there, how often does someone sit there naked on a tiny little island just watching the water all day? And I would see all this plastic come ashore and noticed it had labels from all over the world. And, as I'm sitting there half dying, I remember telling the earth, I was like, all right, if you help me survive this one, I'll help give back to you and try to do something about all this plastic pollution.
Right.
And so when I did, get off the show and went straight, it was like full Hunger Games. It was like going from almost dying to, Steve Harvey with the fake eyelashes and the Ellen shows and the Oprah, all the different.
I did all the.
Oh yeah. And and the first question you get is, well, how many times did you guys sleep together? And I'm like, first of all, you smell. Second of all, you're just thinking
weird
about.
Question.
Yeah, how you're going to survive. But I kept shifting the topic and the platform to plastic pollution.
Perfect.
In the ocean. Like 60% or more of our oxygen comes from the ocean. And the way that currents are working in our world and how much waste we produce, we're literally kind of killing ourselves.
Yeah, it's amazing to see some of the photos and hear some of the stories. It's just horrible. Yeah,
pretty wild. So when you say, did that? Yeah, you do. I mean, you can try to use your platform for good is what I've been trying to do with becoming famous off of being naked on TV. Not something I would ever have expected, but really incredible experience. My goodness. I mean, it's like a vision quest. Yeah.
So, and you've been on a bunch of adventures. What was your most recent adventure? Where'd you just get back from? You were doing a film recently, weren't you?
You're going to laugh. Are you ready for this? Everybody's going to be like, huh?
Here we go, folks. Hang on.
You ready? Okay, here we go. So when I was little, the only time I would get to see TV is on the airplane between countries and mostly Disney movies. Because as a kid, that's what you're able to watch.
Right.
And I would always see these films like Aladdin and The Little Mermaid or Cinderella. And I'm like, oh yeah, Aladdin, that's my friend in Morocco. Oh, that's Abu, that's my monkey in Bali. Like to me, it was totally normal.
Yeah.
And then as I grew up, I realized that people didn't believe that these fairy tales and these people are real.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of morals and incredible discoveries to be had by meeting these people. So one of my favorite tales was Beauty and the Beast, and not a lot of people know that it's a real story.
Oh, okay.
The Beast was a real person. So I tracked it recently, the story from the Canary Islands, all the way to the castles in France where he met and married his belle. And it's a very fascinating story. So I love to kind of mix myth and mystery and legend with, my moral of this time is don't judge a beast by its cover.
That sounds pretty fun.
There's a lot to be learned from this one. So I'm working on edit. I do everything on my own. I edit, I shoot, I'm in it, I host it. It's a lot. It's a big one.
I can relate. My little podcast, it takes
is.
me time, but I can't imagine what, all the filming, and that's podcast times 100.
Like, you just get to frolic the world in a bikini. I'm like, yeah, it's a little more than that. But, I feel like with what our world is dealing with right now, with judging other cultures and people who don't look like us, and I took a moment away from ocean conservation and thought, how can I share a message about being kind to each other?
Yeah. That's important right now. We are. When is it going to be up?
Well, since everybody's just thinking about Santa Claus right now, I might wait a little bit before I launch it so that people have an open mind to watch.
Well, we'll put links to everything on your website so people can find it in the
January.
Future. Cool, perfect.
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm excited. I'm super excited.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and then I've got all kinds of working on a project right now. I can't tell you, but it's going to be massive, and it's to protect our coral reefs in Hawaii.
Great. Yeah.
So that's and all over the world. So that's my next in the pipeline.
Yeah, good. Well, we'll link. Like I say, we'll link to all that stuff. So, what other? Obviously, you do all kinds of things outdoors. Surfing and your water sports are probably high on the list. What other things did you just ski? Have you been skiing?
Yeah, I was actually a skier and a snowboarder before I was even competent in the water, because my parents always joke that they raised a skier and got a surfer, which is kind of funny. My dad, if you look, on my website, you go back, it's crazy. Like, he was the cover of Outside magazine. And,
right.
My mom, they had the first cross-country ski school in Aspen. So long lineage of skiers, totally in the hippie sense. Like, he kept his money in a Snoopy lunchbox and ran around the mountain in tuxedos on telemark skis. They were a breed, but I love winter, and I love skiing, snowboarding, climbing.
Do you get to ski? Do you get to do those things a lot, or doesn't?
Yeah, I recently did one of my adventures in Switzerland.
Oh, nice.
To show. I wanted to do something on peace. And so we always joke about, I'll be Switzerland. So that was a fun combining snowboarding and skiing and tobogganing and sledding with the idea of peace in the world. So I get out. Great. I like to balance with the ocean, for sure.
And how much time do you spend, would you say you spend traveling versus there in Hawaii? Is it 50-50?
Ooh, that's a toughie. I don't know. I'm all over the place. All over the place. I went to school. I went to USC Film School and UC Berkeley both in California. So I have roots there. And I think as a filmmaker, you always have to touch back into with I call it Hollywood. Hollywood. In Hawaii, white people are called haoles. So I get to California. I'm like, whoa, Hollywood.
I like it.
So I touch back in with California quite a bit. I was just there for like a month or so, and then, it's a lot. You just keep.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting nowadays because our world is so saturated, and there's everything with Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and there's all this over-there-itis where people can look at lives like mine and be like, "Whoa, she has it made. All she gets to do is like travel and post on Instagram," and then it's so far from the reality. It's such a I've worked, 10 to 15 years even to get to a point where I could think about it.
Yeah,
not to discourage. I think you got to follow.
You got to follow your heart. Dreams, you got to follow your passion. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. But you can't get frustrated when it doesn't happen in 2 seconds. It will happen. You just have to build it.
You have to stick with it too. I think a lot of folks, don't realize the stick with itness that's required, and they give up too
Yep.
soon, right? They're right
Yeah.
there. They're right on the cusp.
They're
If they
right
would have
there.
given it one more month, it would have gone.
Well, because everybody posts things that look so ridiculously incredible that they look at it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to post how bad my day is. So, of
Right.
course, you're going to look at it and be like, oh, wow, she has it made. She just got to swim with the dolphin. But the reality is I was up for 3 nights in a row, you know, editing a film, and then got to go for a swim. Like, it's a whole different world than people think.
And tell us about the work you do with Sustainable Surf. That sounds like a great project.
Oh, gosh, I'm excited to work with so many nonprofits. Sustainable Surf is a great one. We kind of pioneered the eco board projects years ago, where we're making, well, I shouldn't say we, I helped promote the making of surfboards made from recycled coffee cups.
Wow, cool.
And plant resin. And so there's different companies that, you know, can take the waste and melt it down and make the different surfboards. And then companies like Lost, too, if you're a surfer, you know Lost.
Yep.
It's like Almeric and Lost, and the different companies are now using those blanks to make surfboards. So all of surfing and surf industry is very toxic. And so all my boards are made out of completely recycled materials. But, you know, it's fun to work with. We have our own nonprofit as a family here to help, you know, support sustainability and solar power and the reefs and everything. But I love to work with, whether it's Surf Rider or Sustainable Surf or
And what's your nonprofit called?
Ones. Yoga Adventure Ohana.
Okay. We'll link to that in the show notes too.
yogaadventure.org.
Okay. Cool.
But it's on my website too under nonprofit. And, you know, all I have to say is that my family, it's like there's some people that walk their talk, and it's been really incredible watching my parents over the years as, you know, some people like Yvon Chouinard went and started Patagonia, and his way to do it was through clothing. And my parents' way to do it was through sharing
media and whatnot.
Well, sharing media and also bringing people, you know, you can come stay at our house and learn sustainable living. And they take people to Peru and lead yoga trips and go to Machu Picchu and meet with shamans and kind of get to experience it so it changes your own life. You know, there's so many ways to skin a cat to make change, and watching them actually do it is it's a lot of work, but it's
great,
really
though.
beautiful.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And it's so important in these days where everything just seems to be, we're getting bombarded left and right by, you know, whether it's the inner politics or the social interactions. It's just more and more of this is needed. So I'm glad to hear you guys are working on that. It's great.
Yeah, a place to come experience living in nature here and going on the trips. I think, you know, I took a different torch where they like to actually, and I do a yearly trip here, an Alison's Adventures trip in Hawaii, where you can come and, you know, learn how to manifest your dreams and go swim with dolphin and climb in the volcanoes and trek and hike. But my biggest torch has been to share it through media, getting people aware, like education through entertainment.
Right.
It's like not everybody can go to Trash Island, but if you see visuals of it, you're like, holy cow, I don't think I'll buy a plastic bottle tomorrow.
Got to fix that. Yeah, exactly.
I'll make a change.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Little changes, anything we can do in our lives, like just refusing to use plastic or
and one step at a time. Yeah, you know, you don't have to do it all at once.
No,
exactly.
exactly.
Right. Yeah, you have to do it all at once.
I think everybody gets like, I have to eat kale every meal or I'm gonna die, and it's like, no. You can still eat chocolate, and you can still, you know, there's a balance to everything. And I think like the biggest thing that I always talk about, and I think people learn maybe the most from, is people always come to me and they're like, well, how do you guys, you know, you and your parents, and how do you live this lifestyle? Like, you guys, you know, must be millionaires. And I'm like, no, I live it on, I have a trust fund. And they were like, I knew it. And I'm like, yeah, I trust the funds will be there.
Nice.
And so that's my trust fund. There is no real, you know, but I think everybody, if you can start to trust, you have to create and trust and work hard. And so. And
trust in what you're doing. That's awesome.
Keep trusting the funds will be there.
Keep putting through the effort.
That's
good advice. Do you have any other advice for folks wanting to get into something like this, the outdoor biz, or grow a career in adventure? Any other
I think you have to
nuggets?
Nuggets. I think you have to you have to really love what you do. You can't let other people, I mean, you know, people laughed at me when I said I'm going to dress up in a belle dress, go to France, go to a castle, find a beast. Like, you know, they're looking at me like, are you coconuts? Or even with the Maldives, like I'm going to go to an Islamic country in a bikini with a pink surfboard and get on Trash Island where nobody's been and get footage of it and somehow get it, you know, on Oprah or Ellen or wherever and try to, as a little coconut girl with a big passion, make a big change. And I think that people sometimes don't realize that if you take that risk, whether it's being naked on TV or just walking around the block one day in the middle of the night to see the stars, like it's just kind of getting out there and trying it.
Yeah.
Because you never know what's going to happen in that next minute or who you're going to meet. And I think a lot of people stop themselves before they've even started. It's like they'll get this great idea and then they'll get so... I'm like, let's just go do it.
Yeah,
you know?
That happens so much. People get these great concepts, ideas, and then they just talk themselves out of it before they take the first step.
Exactly.
It's like, come on, just try it, you know? And
you just got to try it. Well, a lot of people think money is a factor, but the reality is the more you make, the more you need. And if you just start small, baby steps, I think kindness, it's amazing what kindness will do. Like just, okay, let's say I'm even talking to you right now, and then suddenly I want to go to Mammoth to shoot a snowboarding film about climate change. I don't know. And suddenly I know you and you live close by and you're like, oh, sure, come over. So suddenly my expensive trip to Mammoth, because of the kindness of others and wanting to, I think you got to be kind to people. You got to talk to them. You got to, I don't want to call it networking because I think that sounds like a using and abusing of others. I think it's like I grew up in a tribal society where it's like you give me potatoes and I give you fish, or you know how that so why can't that keep working? Whereas you don't necessarily have to be a millionaire to go travel the world or accomplish your dreams or, you know, have a
we're all part of the same tribe. I mean, that's the thing that we've lost sight of is we're all on this planet together, you know, and it's slowly, if we don't take care of it, it's going to go away. We have nowhere else to go. So we might as well take care of it. Well, it was interesting.
I was just in Mexico in Tulum with some top like National Geographic explorer researchers, and they were showing me the oldest humans in the Americas, these skeletons found in the caves, and we're cave diving, and they're showing evidence that, you know, climate change is what wiped them out years and years ago. And we're all deep in this conversation about like, you know, how is the planet going to survive? And the guy stops and looks at me and he's like, you do realize the planet will be fine, but we'll be gone.
Yeah,
like we're going to get wiped. And I was like, oh, that's a good point. It's not about, you know, oh, save the world. It's about, do we care enough about our species to want our future generations to continue
and all
to
the more
enjoy
reason
a planet.
to you know, promote that tribe concept, because we're all here together. You know, we can all continue to live here together, or we will all go away together. We're probably all going to go away together anyway, but let's make the best of it while we're here. You know,
exactly. And it's not about fighting like climate change exists or it doesn't, or it's not about that. It's kind of just like, well, do we like those trees, or do we want to cut them down, or do we want to eat fish, or do we want to poison it all with plastic? Like it's kind of a pretty. It's not an argument. It's just kind of getting to see
That's the way it is. Yeah, exactly.
Reality of what's happening out there, and doing your best and not stressing. I think the number one thing that I've learned is like, you cannot do drugs. You cannot do coffee. You can only eat kale. You can do your yoga. But if you're stressed out of your mind every day, you're just polluting yourself just as much as you would.
You're making yourself a mess.
Making yourself a mess.
Speaking of that, do you have any daily routines you use to keep your sanity and health? You meditate. Obviously, you get a lot of exercise. That's great.
Surfing is
there you go.
It's kind of my pride and joy. You know, it's interesting. I don't talk about this a lot because, of course, I can get a lot of judgment for it if people don't understand. But I never drank. I never smoked. I've never touched any of that. And it's not as like a pious, like, oh, I'm perfect. But my thoughts are like, well, first of all, high on life. But second of all, I truly believe, whether it's growing up and learning from these chiefs and shamans or just my own intuition, I don't know. I think we have a pipeline up to some sort of higher force of sorts, or maybe down. And if you cloud it, your manifestation doesn't happen. And I can clearly say that when I want to, like, it's like I want ice cream and it appears because I have such a strong, clear connection to whatever source you can call it prayers, you can call it manifesting.
Yeah. Affirmations,
so I think,
whatever it might be.
Exactly. I think keeping that pipeline clear, I'm not going to judge if people want to go out and have their wine or their, that's great. Right. But my personal opinion is keeping clear those lines, or even try it for a month. It's kind of like, whoa, that's a trip.
Yeah, you never know. It might work. Yeah.
You never know. It might work. I think family is important. I think that I've grown up in cultures where the grandma and the duck and the chicken and the dog and everybody still live together.
Nice, yeah.
So, I often am home a lot with the fam and as a support system, even though sometimes I want to throw coconuts at them.
We all go through that.
Yeah, we all go through that. But I really think, what's interesting about that is I think you have to find what works for you. And that might sound cheesy, but like, for example, my mom's one of the biggest yoga teachers in the world. She trains, the top yogis. And I don't do yoga. Like, it's funny. Yeah. You got to rebel maybe against. Of course, I think yoga is a lifestyle more than just twisting yourself into a pose. So I probably do yoga every day. But I think a lot of people force themselves into like, oh, I have to meditate or I have to do yoga. It's like, well, what works for you?
Yeah.
Does a run through the forest work?
Exactly.
Maybe you want to go rollerblading. Maybe
a walk through the forest, a walk down the street. You get up out of your desk and go for a walk. Yeah.
Exactly. You don't have to sit there and and then, burn your incense and.
Well, it's back to that judgment thing you mentioned earlier too. What works for me might not work for you, but it works for me. And who are you? I'm not going to judge you for what works for you. Go for it. That's great.
I do think nature is so. I mean, I don't know anyone who doesn't go stand under a waterfall and come out being like, "Oh, that sucked."
Very powerful. Right? Yeah.
It just changes up your ions and a lot of ons, everything in your system to recalibrate.
Yeah. You got to get outside every day. I agree with that. Yeah. Well,
nature.
There's finally a lot of
everything can
research.
Be found there.
Yeah, there's a lot of research being done that's proving that. That's proving the health benefits you get by experiencing the outside and nature and on quiet times and all that.
Oh yeah,
it's great.
I mean, we're creatures. We're not.
At the end of the day, we're all animals, right?
Kinda. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's just I learned that being on Naked and Afraid. It's like if you tune in. And I'm not saying the trees talk to you in like a wooey way, but if you tune into what's happening, you'll know when certain things happen. And what if we all were stranded? You'd have to start getting pretty close to nature to survive. And we've come so far from that that it's a little spooky sometimes to think. What would happen.
Pretty crazy.
It is pretty crazy.
Do you read a lot of books about nature, or do you give books as gifts? I mean, you got a lot of time in airplanes. Do you use that to read, or is that your downtime?
What's funny is that because I'm in the film industry, the thing that I try to do on airplanes is catch up on like movies and media, as funny as it sounds, because I don't get to watch stuff. I'm not out on my camel, watching a movie.
That makes sense.
And getting to.
Do you have any favorite movies?
So stories to me are universal. I actually just had a really incredible. This is kind of a fun little story. When I was about 9, 7, I don't know, somewhere in that younger realm, we were trekking through the Himalayas, and I met this. Long story short, it was blizzarding. It was crazy. Thought we were going to die. We found this tea house, up in the flanks of the Himalayas and near Mount Everest. And I was over it. I'm a young kid. I just want to cuddle up, watch a movie, go get, ice cream with grandma in Newport Beach or where I was like, I'm done. I'm so over this life of almost dying every day. And so we get there and there's this little Sherpa girl in the tea house, and we didn't speak the same language. And, my one dream is I'd been hearing about this movie Titanic was out, because that's, every plane you get on, every airport you're in.
That was the movie of the day.
Blown up all over the world. And so I felt like I wasn't cool unless I got to see this. And so she saw me as another little girl, and she waddled over to this chest, and literally like a treasure chest covered in, dust in the Himalaya, like the Tonkas, and she opens it up and like a treasure brings out this VHS
Wow.
black market tape, and she pops it in like this tiny little TV and hands me like a yak hide blanket and a cup of chai.
Nice.
And the screen flickers on, and it's Titanic,
Oh,
and it's like
perfect.
it's like in Chinese with like Thai subtitles.
Who cares?
So
yeah.
we couldn't understand a darn word,
Yeah.
but we watched it probably 8 times all night. And what I learned is that story and survival are universal. And
That's
I think
awesome.
that, to me, not that Titanic's necessarily like my favorite movie in the world, but just learning how a good movie has a good story.
Right.
And that's what I've learned in life through my storytelling. And the reason I told you this is about last week I got to meet Kate Winslet finally.
Oh, cool.
And tell her.
So you told her that story? I bet she loved it.
And tell her the story.
Yeah.
And you know, and it's amazing how you can change someone's life. And that's what inspired me to want to be a role model for kids, is I looked up to her, you know, watching that movie when I was younger. And so what could I do to pass on?
That's awesome.
Those messages, and so you just never know what's going to happen around the corner.
Yeah, you never know what's coming out. Yeah, and I think to your point also about opening up and being aware, that's when that stuff can strike you. If you're not open to that, it'll bypass, it'll blow right by you.
If I
would have
sat with my arms crossed in the tent, and not even gone in the tea house, or
if you were all cranky and threw a tantrum, and I'm just not going to do anything because I don't want to go hiking, then you would have missed that whole experience.
You would have missed the whole thing, and I'll never forget that forever. That was like a bonding experience. So anyway, to answer your question about books, that's a good question. God, honestly, I haven't even. It's so funny. People are like, "What kind of music do you like?" And I'm like, I don't have time.
Yeah.
I don't even have time to listen to music. And if I read a book, I fall asleep. No,
I can relate to that.
I loved, kids' books growing up, like Alfred Hitchcock's and the Boxcar Children and all the different ones you find in India. I have a huge library from growing up around the world.
Let's shift that question a little bit. What's your favorite outdoor gear purchase under $100? Do you have a piece of gear that you use? It's like a Swiss Army knife, It's
funny. I'm actually talking on my, the Pelican has come out with a waterproof phone case.
Oh, there you go.
I'm looking at right now. It's called the Marine case, which I really like.
That'd be pretty handy because you can take photos underwater.
Underwater. We took it out to Cloudbreak. I don't inspire anyone to take their phone anywhere near the ocean if they don't have to.
Yeah.
But
generally not a good idea.
Don't call me when it floods. No, I don't know. I've never had a bad experience with it. So it's just like Life Proof has one, but Pelican I think has made it.
Oh, cool!
Incredible.
I'll check that out. Yeah.
Sleek, sexy iPhone. I think they have for Samsung and everything as well.
They make good stuff. Yeah, probably do.
Yeah, they make really. So that's. I would say, with social media and being attached to your phone. If you look at my story on Instagram right now on Alison's Adventures, I just hiked to a 15,000-foot waterfall, and all I had was me and my phone case, and my phone got drenched, but I was able to put something up there.
Oh, cool! We'll check that out.
I think that's a
good one.
That's a valuable one.
Yeah. Anything else you want to ask of our audience or say to our audience?
Gosh.
Stop using plastic.
Stop using plastic. I just think it's like, as cheesy as it sounds, though, follow your dreams. And I think you got to surround yourself with the visuals of what you want. You just got to, whether it's through vision boards or
storyboards, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, through storyboards, through photos, through kind of getting out there, taking a chance.
Yeah.
To the store and be nice to someone. You just never know. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know. You just never know. And I think we get so into our own little worlds of survival because everything's moving so quickly.
Yeah.
With, emails coming in at midnight on a Sunday. And if you don't answer them within an hour, then you're slacking. So I think
I like that. No, that's good advice. Yeah.
Try to smile and try to spread aloha. That's what I
take a step back a bit. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Slow down.
Spread the aloha and listen to your podcast. I think there's a lot to learn. But no, if people want to ask questions, they can come on my.
Yeah, that was my next question. So where's the best place for people to find you? Email, Twitter, obviously Instagram. You're on all those places. We'll link to all that.
One L, Alison's Adventures. Happy to help as much as I can. Or if you want to come on an adventure, or learn more about filmmaking, or just kind of trying to figure out life. I've thought about going into adventure coaching, because I'm
Mhm.
starting to realize how rare it is for females to do this kind of thing. It was always so normal to me.
Yeah, yeah.
So Alison'sAdventures.com.
Yeah.
And
Well, we'll link to all that.
also, if any schools, my favorite thing is going to schools with my films
Oh,
and
cool.
inspiring.
Yeah,
So if anybody
great.
has an event or a school, they're all free on the website to be shared. And
awesome. Yeah, I was checking some of them out. It's great stuff. You've had a fabulous life of adventure. I'm envious.
Pretty wild. Oh, peanut butter and jealous. That's one of my favorite.
There you go.
It's one of my favorite lines.
Awesome.
No, but stick to your own roots. If that's one thing that I've learned over this lifetime, is that we are all born with a very specific purpose on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you don't follow that purpose, if you let other people say, oh, you're never going to be a painter, or you're never going to be a professional surfer, you're actually robbing the world of your talents, and of your
skills, right?
Of your skills. So instead of saying, I should be a lawyer, or a doctor, an Indian chief, you got to go try to pursue that passion and be that, because you were actually put here to do that. If that's what you feel.
No, I agree. That's great advice. Yeah.
That's
go do
important.
It. Awesome.
Go do it.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks. I appreciate the time. It's been great chatting with you. Yeah, and we'll link to all that stuff in the show notes. And have a great day. I'm sure you will.
I'm excited. I gotta go say hi to my pod. I just got home and the dolphin are in the bay. So
great. Oh man, that sounds fun.
Jump in and maybe do a quick drive by.
There you go. Cool. Awesome. Well, have a great day.
Thank you. Mucho aloha.
Thanks, Alison.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Alison Teal. You can catch up with Alison on the socials at Alison's Adventures. Alison is spelled Alison. And be sure to check out the great content on her website at alisonsadventures.com. You'll find links to everything we discussed in the show notes at theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/episodes/056. I would be grateful if you hit iTunes to give us a rating and review, and if you shared your favorite episodes on the socials. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. This episode is brought to you by Rumple. I use my Rumple blanket on chilly photo shoot mornings making coffee. I love it. My Rumple blanket takes the chill off while I'm waiting for the water to boil. It also keeps me toasty stargazing at night. Get 15% off your Rumple blanket with code OutdoorBizPod at rumple.com. That's OUTDOORBIZPOD for 15% off your next Rumple blanket at RUMPL.com. If you want more of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher, or go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com, where you find all the episodes, show notes, and much, much more. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at The Outdoor Biz Podcast, Twitter at Rick_Saez, that's SAEZ, and my email is rick@theoutdoorbizpodcast.com. Thanks for listening and all the support, and a huge shout out to all my guests, and until next time, be sure to make time to get outside.